A great way to finish the day. Well, we do a question and answer next. And so with that, I'll ask Mike, Kelly, and James to come back in. James already here. And then Chris, the floor is yours to moderate as you see fit.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, great presentations, everyone. And kudos to our presenters for doing a great job of proactively answering on the fly and knocking those out. So if you have any questions, please go ahead, post them in the chat, post them in the Q&A. While we see if anything comes in here, I had a question for Kelly and Mike. James, please feel free to weigh in as well. But on the subject of workforce development, would you say that you have a lot of folks that either come into Rupert or leave Rupert and go elsewhere that would be elsewhere in this pipeline that we're identifying here? So folks that maybe go more onto the purchasing side, or folks that have come to Rupert with any background in maybe the purchasing side of things?
Yeah, definitely. My before I started with Rupert, which was 1994, so it's a long time ago. But I was a purchaser. I was traveling around purchasing for a large retail garden center. One of our sales people was previously a purchaser for a landscape contractor. So that I know for us, that's a great way for us to get inside the mind of those who are purchasing our material, is to just go ahead and hire one. So I think, this industry is funny. We get some people who, from the time they were young and went to college and this is what they wanted to do, and they're here. And then we get other people who never dreamed they would be in this industry and kind of swerve into it. So we've got a little bit of both, but I do think once they get into this industry, they tend to stay. And we definitely have some folks who have come from the contractor side, and vice versa. Some of the folks that we've left have gone back that way. So yeah, I think once you get in the industry, it's sometimes tough to get out.
James, Mike, any other thoughts on that, or pretty similar?
There's a lot of longevity in this industry, and I think it speaks to the collegiality of it. Across the municipal spectrum, I can say, nobody has a trade secret. As soon as you find out a better way or a cooler way or a new way to do something, the first thing you want to do is share it with everyone. Nurserymen, I would say 90% of the way there. They still have some competitive edge, but gosh, they're tree nerds. They just want to tell you how cool this stuff is.
True.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add other than, like you said, there's once you get in the industry, there's a lot of motivation to stay. Green industry is a great place to work. So,
absolutely. Slightly different note, Mike. This one's directed at you. Do you ever worry about carrying any pests in the soils to all the locations that you deliver to? I suppose that's a fair question to ask anybody that's moving plant material, but this is something that Ava worries about with invasive worms and nematodes.
Yeah, we in Florida, I would imagine every state has something similar. We do have testing to see if we have any nematodes that aren't going to be native to the areas that we might be shipping to. So there are particular nematodes that we are not able to ship to Texas, for example, unless you're tested to be negative for those. So we do have those sort of protocols in place for that type of thing. Also fire ants, if we're shipping outside of the fire ant quarantine zone. So that's all sort of taken care of by the Division of Plant Industry, which is part of the Florida Department of Agriculture.
All right, well, I'm going to choose to view this as my personal question session if no one is chiming in until I get some other ones. But James, I guess this would be more for you. For an organization that hasn't, really dipped their toe in trying to approach contract growing or, procurement contracts, how would you encourage them to go about exploring that as something that they could utilize?
Sure. So at the beginning of the Million Trees NYC project, we had to sit down and ask, okay, we have this mandate to plant 1 million trees. Are there 1 million trees out there? The answer was no. But if there were, are the trees out there the ones that we want to plant? are they the species and quality that we need? And, we said the only way we're going to get this done is if we actually tell people what we need. So the best place for a smaller municipality or someone who's just starting out, sit down and figure out what your needs are going to be over the next, 3 to 5 years, if you can project out that far. Even looking back at what you've done in the past gives you a good baseline. And then just sit down, go and meet the nurseries. Gosh, they just want to show off in the best way possible. They want customers to come out and see the beautiful trees that they're growing, and ask every question you could possibly think of that will help you figure out what you need. Yeah, just make that list of what you need, go talk to the nurseries, get out there and see the trees. It's not the kind of exercise you can do successfully just from a catalog.
Sure. And so, Mike, Kelly, then from your standpoint on the growing side, positive experiences with contract growing? Have you done much contract growing? What have your experiences been?
We've done a little. We would like to do more. I think that's a great way to share the risk of the whole process. We want to grow what people want, but unfortunately, we are looking in a crystal ball many, many years ahead of time, trying to decide what that is, because we're ordering it 2 years ahead of time, and then for us, it's anywhere from 5 to 20 years before it comes to the market. So we're kind of guessing. So we really would like to do more contract growing to share that. And we have done it. It's mostly been project specific. And typically we would like to have a little more time than what we've had in the past. That's really the challenge, is figuring this out, 3 or 4 years ahead of time instead of 12 or 18 months ahead of time. But we have done a little bit. It's worked out well. We would just like to do more of it.
Awesome.
Yeah, same for us. We would love to do more. In fact, Andrew has done a lot of research on trying to solve this chicken and egg problem within our industry, right? How do we get more species grown? How do we get more diversity in the urban forests? Well, a lot of it is, if we could get these contracts to help share some of that risk, like Kelly mentioned, we would love to. We've certainly stuck our neck out there many times on species, and then when the demand doesn't follow, we get our neck cut off. So, you get a little bit shy, you get a little bit gun shy when you've done that in the past. But the most that we ever have is the same that Kelly mentioned, maybe 12 to 18 months for some of the bigger theme park projects and things. But most municipalities are, maybe a month or two, maybe 6 months out on what their needs are going to be. Never had anyone talk about long-term contracts like James is discussing.
Mm-hmm. A couple other quick ones as we go through, because we're almost at the end of this period. James, what is a package tree?
So I think when people think of a grow bag, often they're thinking of that felt, bag with 2 handles on it that you put a seedling in and you grow it on for a year or 18 months. And at some point it is still perishable, right? So it's got a lifespan in that bag, and those roots go out to that outside edge and they're air pruned off. So you end up with this really fibrous root system where, the driest part of the root ball is on the outside, which encourages all of this callus tissue to grow. So you don't have to go and hack 50% of the roots off like you would for a hard-sided container and cause this tree a huge amount of stress at the time of planting. You're planting the tree with probably 95% of the roots that it needs right off the bat. So that's a grow bag. I say package because there's a few other ways to do this with a woven polypropylene. So think a much nicer and much more ecologically friendly, that blue tarp that everybody grew up with, covering the wood pile with. A bag made out of that kind of material, breathable. Sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's black, sometimes it's white. Same thing though. The roots go out to the edge, they get pruned off. I've seen some of the nurseries, they'll take a 2-inch tree that they've field grown. It's limbed up, it's pruned, it's everything, it's ready. They'll take it, bare root it, and put it in a soilless media in that package. And they'll establish those roots out for 6 months. Say they did that in February or March. By August 1st, for most trees, that is saleable, and you're
Mhm.
planting it that fall.
Got it. Thank you. I actually wasn't familiar with packaged either, so that's great. Last two, Mike, for you. Can we apply the Florida Standards matrix to trees across the country, or just Florida area trees?
Yeah, it definitely can be applied across the country. I mean, like James showed pictures of with the ANSI standards, I think the grades and standards just takes it to the next level. It's not the should, it's the, you must to achieve this grade. So, and just a little bit more specific, issues maybe in some points, but definitely can be applied across the country.
Cool. And very last one, everyone's welcome to chime in with their experience, but what happens when contracted trees get killed by natural disasters or similar random events? Guessing that's where maybe insurance comes in, but whatever experiences you have, love to hear them.
You're talking about if you're in the middle of a contract growing and some of the trees get damaged during that. Well, yeah, we haven't had that happen to us, honestly. For us, it would have to be some sort of a major, I guess, hailstorm or something that would cause that. Typically, when we have done contract grown, we do grow extras. So we're not down to every single one, so that we've got some surplus there. We've never, had that type of total failure, knock on wood. But yeah, that's typically we would just address it with having some surplus built into the equation, and then hope that we don't have some catastrophic event like that. Yeah.
In our tree procurement contracts, we're having 15% overage grown available, and so that's a helpful thing. It's also having a minimum purchase number per year gives the growers a lot of confidence in being able to grow extras. I can think of one time where it wasn't a natural disaster, but it was somebody sprayed the wrong thing on a whole block of yellowwood. And these beautiful 2-inch yellowwood that were coasting into 2.5 for fall. We were counting on it. We were excited about it. And, whoops. And they all went belly up. You know what? There was enough of a diversity of other trees that we could fill it in to choose from. You just got to be flexible, and that's part of the partnership.
Awesome. Love that. Well, thank you all very much. That was great. Thanks for the questions coming through. I know we're a little over, but Andrew, back to you.
Great.